Hi, Jim.
Hello, David.
Hello, Jody.
What up, guys?
Jim, introduce Jody.
So we'd like to welcome Jodie. I'm gonna attempt your last name, Trivedi. Was I close?
Sure, we'll go with that. Trivedi. I like that.
I'm sure I got it wrong.
Everybody does, but I think of all the wrongs, that was the best one, so we're going to go with it.
Okay.
It looks like Trivedi. I'm just guessing.
Oh, it's Trivedi.
It's
there's no
Trivedi.
L. Well, there goes my ADD. So, anyway, we're welcoming Jodie, and this is our what do we call it? The Women in Music segment. And Jodie has joined us as we kick it off for 2019 or 2018, sorry, because last year we had our Women in Music, and then sometimes, and I'm gonna say this, sometimes it's difficult to get some of the, you've got to set yourself up where interviews happen, and sometimes they don't happen, and they fall apart, and weeks go by, and so we have to bring things back in. Had a heck of a first half of the year. The growth of the channel has been great, and I noticed we joined Jodie's group, the Rockin' Guitarists, on Facebook. So if you want to check her out, that's where you go. So let's do our housekeeping first, and then let's get right into questions.
All right, so it's housekeeping time. Are you a regular listener? Why not? Subscribe to the Practical Guitarist using our chosen podcast app. Take the time to put in a review with a service where you found our podcast, like iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Get involved. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/practicalguitarist. And if you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at questions@practicalguitarist.com. And new this week, we now have a Twitter presence. You can follow us at @practicalgita2. So, GUITA2.
Wow, Guitarist was already taken?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder if it was actually me.
I wonder if it was that guy. Remember that guy that had the Facebook group?
Yeah.
Practical Guitarist. So there's a guy, Jodie, that has a Facebook group called Practical Guitarist. And there's one member.
So apparently there's not many of us that are practical.
That was sad. I was like, should we join his group just to at least but he hasn't posted anything since 1923. So.
Oh, there you go. And the one member is really him, right?
Yeah. That's what it is. So,
owner
Jodie,
and operator.
Dave, why don't you go ahead and ask us question number one?
All right, dumb question number one.
That's right.
How long have you played guitar?
All right, so I've been playing acoustic for about a year, but I've been focused on the electric for the past 8 months.
For those of us who are not so inclined, I've been kind of following some of Jodie's stuff on her Facebook page, and she actually is a killer player for a year. I mean, I'll be honest. It took me 3 years to get where you were at.
Easily.
A long time ago, but...
a lot longer for me, but yeah. And I don't mean a lot longer ago. I mean, it took me a lot longer to get where she is. I mean, this young lady played guitar for George Lynch.
Yeah, in front of him.
In front of him. Yeah, but I did play bass for Winger.
All right.
Kip Winger himself?
Winger himself. He put his bass guitar
hardcore
on me, and I got to play a song with him and right next to Reb Beach.
It's really, really hard for me not to sing a Winger song right now.
Which one?
Any of them.
She's only 17.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm only 17.
She's only 17.
That feels really bad to sing it.
So we just posted a video. Speaking of Winger, from a guy named Stevie T, a YouTuber.
Yeah,
and he was talking about 10 most hated bands, and Winger wound up in there. It wasn't somebody he wanted to say was a bad band.
Yeah, he was like, I understand.
They're one of those bands that, unfortunately, they hit right before the grunge movement.
Yeah.
So you're a little young for that, but so that swing into the grunge movement, it definitely kicked a lot of the really good guitar players were suddenly Oh, you suck, because we want to hear this guy just bang away on dissonant chords.
Yeah.
So,
And this is butthead, you know.
So often I find myself driving down the road listening to Headed for a Heartbreak, and you should see the looks that you get from people in cars next to you, especially being a male.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So, what started you off on the instrument? What got you interested?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
What started you off on the instrument? What got you interested?
I've been interested since I was very little. I may look young, but I have a very old soul, and I have a lot of tastes that a person my age typically wouldn't have. But I grew up listening to Dokken and Winger, and a lot of my influences were people like Steve Vai and Gary Hoey.
Okay, all right.
And I just always loved it. The album that stood out to me the most was Steve Vai, Bad Horsey, with his hands here, and he was that silver blue. You know, I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I'm sitting there jamming Bad Horsey. You know, and I'm like, this is good stuff. And my mom's like, crank it up.
So you're talking about your old soul. I was probably 20-something at that point.
Yeah. But I grew up with it just like you
Maybe
did.
30.
The only difference is I wasn't a teenager getting to go to the concerts and having all the fun that came with it, you know?
When I saw Steve Vai the first time live, just to give you an idea, he was playing guitar for Sammy Hagar. Or not Sammy Hagar, sorry. David Lee Roth. And it was in the, when David Lee Roth did Eat 'Em and Smile and everything else.
Yeah.
And I was in my 20s at that point when I saw him. That's how old I am.
When I was little, that album art kind of scared me a little bit. I still love the music, but I didn't like looking at the album art too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
their version of Tobacco Road was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's been an influence since I was a little girl, but I never had the opportunity to pick up a guitar until I reached my 30s.
So you were attracted to the album art and the visual interpretation of it. Because it's interesting, because Jim and I talk about a lot of times on the show about music being a performance art. And so much of what we see is, and what we find entertaining with performers is how they present themselves on stage. So it's very interesting that the album art connected with you in that way.
Yeah.
So you've been playing for a year, and actually this makes this question maybe a little bit more interesting. What's your current go-to rig like? Like, what are you playing through?
I play through studio monitors, but I use a Helix LT, which is an amp modeler. The reason why I decided to use that type of setup is because if I did ever start really digging quite often, I didn't want to lug around all those heavy amps to get all the different tones I like to achieve.
Yeah, I know. I got a Helix back here on the floor.
Isn't it great? I absolutely love. You know what else is really cool? I don't know if you have this. I love Line 6. Line 6 products are just superb. I know people don't. They tend to think they're gimmicky, but you do a lot of cool stuff.
A lot of the stuff they do is pretty cool.
You have this?
No, I don't. I know what that is.
I would recommend investing in this because I walk around my entire place just shredding, just playing with this little thing in there. And there's no lag. It has amazing reach, same sound.
It used to be years ago that I had. So I had a Samsung wireless unit, gosh, probably 10 to 15 years ago. Yes, I did exactly the same thing for like the month or two that I had it. I literally walked around the house and did nothing but play. But I ended up selling it because it didn't. So it did some things tonally to my guitar that I didn't like, and then I actually traded it in. I got another of the same unit, and it had another issue, and so I finally just said, I washed my hands of this. I'll go back to cables. And I haven't I haven't gotten back to wireless. I know it's on my to-do list. I was actually just at Sweetwater Gear Fest last weekend, and I was looking at the Boss wireless unit. So
yeah, I haven't played that.
It's cool. It's very similar to the Line 6, the one that you have there. It's very similar to it, except some of the cool features it has is it automatically turns on and turns off when you pick it up. And the bass unit is pedal board mountable, like one of their compact pedals. And so it's powered off, it's typical 9-volt and all that. And It's a very cool unit. I think for my needs right now, that may be the one I go with. But wireless is wireless, like to some extent.
So I can tell you, I bought a Shure way back when Shure came out with their nice wireless units, and it's still got the base looks like a thing you would bring to war. It's got the big ear antennas and stuff.
Yeah, rabbit ears.
And that thing, even last night, it's incredible. But for household use, the X Vibe is a good one too. X5, VIVE.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good one. I think that when it comes to home use, whatever works for you and works well is really good. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
You know what I wish though?
Yeah.
You said that you're the boss when you pick it up and put it down, it turns on and off on its own.
Yep.
I don't know why it can't have like a little kill when you just turn the volume off, because that's one thing that kind of does annoy me about it is I have to unplug it to shut it off, otherwise I'm draining it.
The Boss unit, when you put the guitar down, like if you hang it up or whatever, after a certain amount of time it shuts off. So that's kind of cool. They put a lot of thought into that particular part of it. Part of the reason why I never got onto the wireless bandwagon is I do a lot of studio recording, and so you basically want to be cabled for most of that stuff. So it hasn't really ever been a big deal. If I got back out to gigging like frequently, which I'm starting to do now, I probably will have to invest in wireless. But I can't do it for a year. I don't know if Jim has told you, but we're doing a moratorium on purchasing gear for a year.
Yeah.
It's a competition. So
yeah, it's a competition. Look behind you there, Dave.
Yeah.
So we're going a year where we're going to try to pull more tone out of what we have and go into where we give more attention to how we can modify what we have, but not mods that would affect tone. Modify it in the way we use it. So it's really good. Now I noticed that a lot of photos you use the Warlocks a lot. Are you a big Warlock fan? I mean, yeah, there's two.
That's a Rico, right? That's not a BC Rich. That's a Bernie Rico guitar, right?
It's a BC Rich.
Oh, is it? Mm-hmm. I thought I saw a photograph with you with one with an R on the headstock. Because I know Rico guitars, like that's where the lineage has gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it's a. So what's unique about my Warlocks is that they are truly unique in the fact that they never went for sale to the general public. They're blanks.
Okay.
Ooh.
From the factory.
That's cool.
That there were some little minor things, like little dings on them, so they rejected them, and I got them.
You got them.
Nice.
I got them.
That's how you got those at the good price. You're going to have to let us in on that later.
So
maybe if you're lucky.
No, I'm going to tell you.
That's my favorite.
That's a gorgeous guitar.
I'm going to tell you a story about that green guitar back there with the bones on it. And I don't want you to take this. I don't want you to take this the wrong way, because Jim and I know the lineage of that. But there's another podcast out there where they kept seeing these guitars come up on Reverb and Craigslist, and one of their big things is they review those things. And it's one of the funniest episodes they did. But I can't look at that guitar and not say this. They called it Bone Dick, and it's because the lower horn. I had to say it. I'm sorry, I couldn't avoid it. I had to say it.
Yeah, you never see it the same way twice or again.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm thinking about it.
It's kind of like that Little Mermaid poster that everybody was like, "Oh, look at." Oh no, that's not there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, so
at least it's a happy bone.
Yeah, I was going to say it's happy. It's ready to rock.
I hope that didn't make you feel uncomfortable or anything, but I had to.
So what's that one?
Every time I see it now, I'm gonna literally.
Yeah. The name of the other podcast is 60 Cycle Hum. You may actually want to go listen to that episode. And that's the name of the episode, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta look it up now.
Yeah.
So you've got. I see a gem, the yellow gem. What is the one between the BC Rich and the George Lynch? Yep, that one.
That's another Lynch model. That's an LTD. This one?
Oh, nope, to your that one. Yep. Ooh,
That's cool.
That's on one of the Lynch Mob albums.
oh, that's nice. So when you met him, tell us about that meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a video of you, which I love that video, and you're like showing him, and he's got like a glass of wine or something in his hand, and he's watching your video, and he's like, "Oh, I never know you could play it that way. I play it wrong." You got to tell us about that meeting because that had to be funny.
Yeah, so it was one of those meet and greets, right?
Mhm.
And you know how I don't know if you're, some meet and greets are a little bit less formal, some are more informal. This one was one of those assembly line meet and greets where they're like, okay, you say hi, bye, take a picture and get out. I was like, that's not enough for me.
No.
Yeah.
And whatever George Lynch wants goes, right?
Yeah.
I said, that was the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I want you to watch me playing Mr. Scary. And he was like, all right. And then the guy that was like regulating us had no authority after that.
Yeah.
So
not just any song, Mr. Scary.
yeah, he was like, okay, there's a woman that's approached me that's saying that she can play my song. Yeah, let's hear it. And then I told him how long I had been playing. And so he was even more intrigued. And when he actually took the time to listen to it, he really focused in on that.
Yeah.
It definitely can tell from the video. Like, he's like, oh.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe how grateful I was for that moment, that somebody of that talent and that, that kind of level of fame that he has and his reputation for the type of guitarist that he is, actually take the time to listen and compliment.
Yeah.
Because like you said, most of these, and that's why I was asking about it, because most of these meet and greets, it's, okay, whatever you've got, like when I met, give it to them that you're one or two items that, depending on the line, you can get that signed, get a picture, get out of the way. And I understand why they're doing that. There's usually 40 people in line and trying to get things done. But George literally, I watched the video and he literally took the time and he's got your phone. I guess you showed it on your phone.
Yeah.
He took the time to watch it. And then I remember how he said, oh, that's how you play that. I've been doing it wrong. And I just thought that was funny because he probably was talking about a technique where you had learned a fingering that he hadn't even thought of, in all this time.
That's cool. And so I'm assuming you learned the song by ear?
A little bit by ear and a little bit by Mr. Lynch himself. He has a tutorial
Okay.
on that. And there's another gentleman that does a tutorial of Mr. Scary. But as you know, when people do tutorials, there's differences.
Yeah. Well, everybody has their own interpretation.
Yeah. So what I do is they get me halfway there, right? And then I put the headphones on and I listen to the album and then I tweak it so it sounds more closely to the album.
Right.
But as you know, George has this amazing ability and he has these big hands.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of techniques that I had to adjust for my hands in order to accommodate a lot of the sounds that he makes. So that when I was playing it differently, it was probably like, he's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Probably because he didn't have to. He had that stretch already.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I have sausage fingers, so I feel your pain. They're very short, and the stuff that I play, like I play, everything from Steve Vai on down to Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that. Even the Hendrix stuff when he's sticking his thumb over the top.
To Jimi Hendrix.
I'm just saying, like everybody, and I'm talking about. You know what? You know what, Jim?
Jimi Hendrix hands that were big.
Jim. I just want to say this right now. Look, I'm talking about down in terms of time, right? So like when you were born to when I was born, that period of time, okay?
Hendrix was not, he was playing guitar, but not for anybody famous yet when I was born, mister.
No, that's not true. He was playing for the Isley Brothers, probably.
64?
Yeah, that sounds about right. That was before Blue Flame, so.
Yeah.
Was in in Vietnam same time as my uncle or my father, one of the two. So the thing about that you were talking about is, and that was what I was going to get to, is a lot of times we'll see these people and they'll be so enamored with, I've got to play it exactly like the original. And it's not possible. Just like he was talking about Hendrix, there's no way that a person with, now I have long, thin fingers for my size, but I'm a small person. Small, short. Let's call me short.
You're short in stature.
Sure. This way, look at
Shit,
can't even
Jim.
see the room.
Shit.
But so you've got Steve, a guy like Steve Vai, or a guy like George Lynch, or who's the other, Paul Gilbert, who have these fingers that they could palm basketball.
Yeah,
And
Gilbert's
then you take-
ridiculous. I've seen him in person, and his fingers are insane. But you know who's actually are longer? Greg Koch.
Oh yeah, but Greg Koch's like 9
Really?
feet tall.
Yeah, his fingers are like 7 or 8 inches long. It's ridiculous.
Lord. Well, here's the funny thing. I can palm a basketball. I have pretty big hands, but they still aren't comparable to Steve Vais and George Lynch. I mean,
Right,
those guys
right.
are kind of in their own
Yeah,
bracket.
exactly.
But I have something they don't. I have an awesome thumb hook.
I see that you
So I have
have.
thumbs.
Oh,
Right. That's crazy.
So I get to do a lot of cool tricks that a lot of people can't do on guitar with my thumb.
and that was the thing that Hendrix was really famous for, was the way he was able to hook the thumb over and able to do things with his thumb that most of us have to like shift in a way to kind of get. And
Yeah.
so it does change the process. And that's, really that's what I was trying to talk about, is how everybody's got to change the way you play something. Even if I want to play something you play, I'm going to have to play it differently.
Yeah.
My little
And you should.
yeah.
So now we've been talking about you're playing all these like very sophisticated pieces of music. Like they've got a lot of stuff going on in them. You're not taking lessons or anything like that, or is it all self-taught?
All self-taught. Now,
I should quit.
I saw it.
my boyfriend Joe, he's my photographer as well. He's
Okay.
the one that snaps all those really cool photos. He's the one who put an electric guitar in my hands. And
Okay.
what he put into my hands was that floral guitar. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He put that, of all guitars to put in a newbie's hand, he puts a floral in my hands. And he says, here's the pentatonic scale. Okay. Pentatonic scale. And he goes, okay. And he played me a backing track and said, play over it. And I started playing over it. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I think we got something here. So
Yeah.
he showed me a few more things here and there. And I just took off with it. And every now and again, I'll get stuck and I'll come to him and say, hey, what do I do? And he'll say, oh, you're okay. This is what you're not hearing, or this is what you need to do. And maybe you should try to bend this way. So he helps me. It's not that I don't have help and guidance.
We all do.
But a lot of it is self-accomplished.
So I'm gonna I'm gonna interject here. A lot of people would say, "Oh, she's only been playing for a year. She can't be that good." But the fact is that some people are naturally good at stuff, and it
Correct,
sounds like
right.
that's. I mean, because we've heard you're playing, and when I asked you for an interview, I thought, "Oh, she's been playing since she was a little girl," and then when you told me, "Oh, I've only been playing about a year," I was like, "I hate you," so because I've been playing for almost 50 years. I suck. So
Jim's just saying he can't play Mr. Scary. He doesn't suck.
I can't. I couldn't play Mr. Scary if my life depended on it.
Nor could I, for that matter. But
And
yeah.
that's the thing. It's to see somebody who's you're amazingly gifted is what I'm getting to.
Well,
Amazing.
thank you. Thank you.
Don't
Well,
take that for granted.
No.
Don't wait.
I certainly won't, but I did play clarinet when I was in band. Maybe there's some musical inclination or something.
there's a trumpet sitting next to me over here. So I'm trying to think about. I'm looking at my questions. I'm trying to put them in the right order for
I play
us to approach this. He's a keyboard warrior. Anyway, so how do you feel? Do you feel like there aren't enough female guitar players?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Here's the thing, regardless of, the stigma on guitars or whatever, it's still up to you to pick up the guitar.
Sure.
And if a female just doesn't want to do it, she doesn't want to do it.
Well, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but Fender put out a statistic last year, and that's part of what actually kind of prompted my exploration of this topic, was that Fender had put out this thing that said basically half of new guitars are being sold to women. And the kind of attitude right now amongst a lot of people when that happened was, well, who are these women? Where are they? Because, like if you look at the radio right now, and I'm saying in the last 10 years, obviously in the 80s we had, 80s and 70s we had like Joan Jett and people like that. But really the radio today is very male dominated from the guitar side of things. Yeah. There are some people that are breaking out. I got the lovely opportunity to see Nita Strauss at Gearfest, and that was fantastic. We also are aware of Samantha Fish and people like that. But it just seems like it's still a very male dominated culture. And when Fender comes out with a statistic like that and says, look, there's all these women buying guitars, but then it doesn't match up with the community. Obviously the thought is that these are early players and that maybe 5 or 10 years from now we'll see that growth.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a little male domination.
Oh my God.
I mean, I wouldn't say dominated. There's just a lot more male guitarists, and that's all it is. I don't want to say, it's male dominated because that could always shift and change. Change isn't easy.
Sure.
And, as a woman, I also don't need to be one of those, I'm a woman and I'm going to change it all. I don't care about all that. If it happens to change, then you know what? Maybe us as women did the right thing and came in there with a humble attitude and said, hey, you know what? I can shred just like you.
Mm-hmm. Nita talks about the fact that she, I'm trying to remember the way she phrased it, but she never actually got anything or got shit for being a woman because she made it very clear that she was going to carry her own equipment. She was going to take care of her own, set up and tear down. She didn't need any special privileges because, she had to learn a part specially. She's always competed with men for, her roles in bands and stuff. So it's very interesting. And I think your attitude actually lines up quite a bit with hers.
And there was another thing that Nita had mentioned is that her, like you have said, Jody, her heroes, much like what your heroes are, actually pretty much the same people. You're talking about George Lynch, and you're talking about Steve Vai, you're talking about those guys. That's where her attitude came from. She didn't care about the sex of the person, just that this is the music I liked, and I think that's where we have to remove that, and that will remove some of the stigma.
Yeah, and you know what? I got just as much shit from women for playing guitar. Really? Honestly,
that's interesting.
Yeah, she's not really a friend anymore. She thought I was silly picking up a guitar. She's like, "What are you doing, taking pictures with guitars and acting like you're 14 again? Why don't you be a woman and have children, have a family?" I'm thinking,
slow down.
You are kidding me. See, that is a terrible stigma, and I didn't want to bring it up. I'm glad you did. In that. There are women out there who still think that it's supposed to be the 2 kids, 2 dogs. Man goes out, earns all the money. She just sits at home and says, "Yes, sir. Can I have another?"
Yeah.
And no, you're out there being independent, and we'll remove the the sex out of it. And it is you're out there being an independent individual, and that's what you're doing. You're doing what you want to do. Why is it wrong that it's a woman? I don't get it.
Yeah, unfortunately, people, and I don't think this will ever change. But it's something I hope that I have hope that it will. And when we stop saying he and she and black and white and all that stuff that causes a separation in the first place, it's going to be more fluid, and there's going to be a lot more talent that we're going to get to see, because a lot of creativity is destroyed by that.
Yes, I agree completely.
So, we're only hurting ourselves if we have that kind of mindset. So if a guy comes up and shows me up on the guitar, I'm going to shake his hand. If a girl does the same thing, It doesn't matter to me. And I also think with women coming into playing guitars, women are kind of catty. Let's just be real. And they get jealous and they get snooty and snotty with each other. And that's also another discouraging angle for a woman to step into the guitar world, because the women that are there are kind of bitchy.
Yeah, well, let me give you let me give you a male take on that.
Sure.
Men do the same fucking thing.
Yeah, we do.
how many guys does it take to change how many guitar players does it take to change a light bulb? 6. 1 to change the light bulb, and the other 5 to sit around and go, I could have done it better.
Yeah.
Jim,
That's a terrible attitude.
But it's true. I don't care. I saw a thing where a guy posted about his favorite guitar players. He posted his 14 favorite guitar players. And then people were like, you're wrong. What? You mean to tell me that if I like ice cream of this flavor, or I like this kind of art, or I like these guitar players, I'm wrong because I like them?
Yeah.
How is that wrong? It's
whatever happened to opinion being not fact?
right. And
It's opinion.
subjectivity.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's really funny is those people that are like, I don't agree. They're like the most opinionated people out there, and they expect everybody to agree with their opinion. It's like,
That's right.
you can't have the best of both worlds. If you're going to act a certain way, then you need to expect to be treated the same way, or maybe you should adjust your behavior a little bit. So
Absolutely.
I know the guy you're talking about. He posted that on my rock and guitar page.
I saw
And
that.
I liked a lot of the people. I don't have to agree or disagree, but for the most part, that was a pretty solid list.
Yeah. I think that's
Gilmore?
probably where I found it, was on rock and guitar.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you got Gilmore, Vi, all those people. Yeah, you're good. As long as you got Clapton, I'm happy.
Just because Steve Vai isn't on his list, somebody was like, "Oh, unsubscribe."
How dare you? It's like, come on, you can't get everybody on the top 14.
Yeah, exactly.
Get over it.
Yep.
So
Can't.
this is maybe a tougher question to do with the fact that you're a woman. Are there any projects you are part of specifically because you're a woman? I know of at least one.
Yeah, but you can't do a calendar like mine. I'm telling you right now, because my calendar is kind of middle of the road guys who play guitar.
I know some middle-aged dudes that would buy your calendar.
I don't remember what it was.
Jim, I know some middle-aged dudes that would buy your calendar. I'm just saying.
I know. I was scary actually to see some of the reactions. I was like, some of these guys actually want me to do it. They didn't realize it was a joke. What the?
Well, maybe you have something now because of your male gender.
But
do I think it's because I'm a female? I think that has a lot of influence. I don't think I'm doing it because I'm a girl, but it's like those. Here's the difference. I actually play guitar, and I value it, and there's a very deep set passion. A lot of people don't know the road I had to go and drive through to get where I'm at. I've had a lot of discouraging figures in my life, and I went through a lot of bad stuff that I wouldn't wish on anybody to get where I'm at, to be able to play that guitar. No one will know how deeply that means to me to finally have that privilege. People don't realize that's a privilege. And each instrument is built, whether it's by a CNC machine or by hand, but there is a art, there is thought, there is craftsmanship that goes into every guitar, and there's a beauty in that. And I want to show that. And it happens to be that, I'm a woman and I look good next to a guitar. So why, if that's the way I get to push my passion forward, then so be it.
Sure. Okay. I can follow along. I can dig that.
That got deep, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Well, I think
Shit got real.
So, David, that kind of speaks to when my first conversation with Jodie was about the women of Guitar World. I know that was one of the early ones we had where they used to do the women of Guitar World. And the thing she didn't say, oh, Guitar World shouldn't do that. It was they had women who were playing them like upside down and stupid shit like that.
Right.
So, you don't know how to handle the instrument, even for a model shoot. Why are we putting them in your hand? And I want to let you go ahead and speak to that.
So, yeah, I get it. There's, those hot rod magazines where you have the girl with their ass sticking out, the thumb pretty much flossing her butthole.
No, I've never seen.
Jim's like, I've never heard of this thing.
Do you think she knows what a brake booster is, or a master cylinder, or a valve cover, or a
Hell no.
carburetor? hell no. She just knows it's pretty and it's paying me money.
Yeah.
All she knows. But you know what? I love seeing her next to the car. She looks good. So I get it. There's sex appeal, and we as human beings or animals, even for that matter, we like something that looks good.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna model with a guitar, at least take the time to learn. You don't have to learn a chord. You don't have to learn how to strum it, but at least know that you're holding it right. And same for the photographer that's taking the picture. Educate your model. Like, come on.
Well, to be philosophical about it for a moment, I mean, some of our famous pieces of art feature both male and female naked bodies. I mean, the Sistine Chapel, the David, all of these things feature nudity. And it's not that obviously your calendar is not nudity, but the point is, like, those things are not seen as sexual. And it's weird to think that, like, you can't do the same thing with a guitar and a person standing there. And so I get that there's like this double standard in art now where people are looking at it and say, that's objectification. That's objectification. But in 100 years, are people going to perceive it that way? I'm sure there were people, we're talking about the times of the church, who were looking at the David and going, what is this? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it happened.
Now they look at it and go, what is that? Oh, that was pubic hair back before, in the time of the 70s and before. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway.
When it still existed.
Pro Bush.
Well, you talked about the statue of David. If you look at the statue of David, there's... Anyway, that wasn't where he was hiding his tissue.
What? I don't feel objectified.
Yeah.
And that's what...
And I think that should be in the photos.
Right.
I think that should be the core defining thing of that, is that, do you feel objectified? And if you don't, and you're willing to participate in it, then yes, okay, so maybe some woman feels offended because it's like, well, this is for women in general. You're speaking for everybody, but you're not. You're an individual. We need to get away from this idea of having herd mentality. If that's what you want to do, then do it.
Yeah, and I'm so sick and tired of male against female. You know what? We are genetically born different. And, there's genetically, things that are different about us that we just need to accept.
Right.
There's going to be things a male can do that a female's going to struggle to do, and vice versa. And we don't need to, worry over what's genetically ingrained into us. It's just stupid to me. And you're wasting your time.
Okay. So another question for you. Do you feel like creepy guys follow you around the internet harassing you?
It has to happen.
How do you handle it? How do you prepare for it?
Sometimes I call their bluff.
That's great.
That's the best way.
You send me a penis pic, I'll send you one back superimposed on my body.
Oh my God.
Why the hell not? You want to dish it out? You better be willing to take it. And I do. I mess with these guys hardcore. There's this one fella that messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, baby, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Nothing. What's up?" And he's like, you want a video chat? I was like, sure. And I sent him a picture of my boyfriend, Joe, holding the guitar. And I was like, will it look good enough for video? He's like, no. It's like, wrong person.
It's
wrong person.
There's a South Park that the female teacher that took over for the male teacher. They've been teaching them for years. The male teacher was doing. They did kind of a Star Wars thing, and she had to learn that when the kids said, show us your balls or something, or I'm gonna suck my balls, and then she said, present them, and it was like, and then they were like, I don't know how to respond to that. I think that's the thing that a lot of guys. Of course, I'm not that kind of person. I never have been, so I'm not sure how their brain works. But I'm sure that they don't get a lot of dates by asking the way that guy did with you. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I can't. I almost felt like making a calendar of penises.
That's next year, 2019.
Because I literally would get so many inboxes, and they're just like, they don't say hi, hello. They're just like, blah, blah, blah. Here it is.
Are you serious? So people really do this? They really.
The funny thing is, it's like,
next
There's
Joe.
there's nothing identifying in that picture. It's like, here's some random dick that I got off to some porn site.
It was funny. I opened my Instagram account, and this is like towards the beginning of all of this happening, right? So it was happening a lot more in the beginning. And I open it, and I open the message because I don't suspect anything. Boom, there it is. And Joe's like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "It's a penis pic. I'll delete it."
You had to explain to your boyfriend. Okay, this is what we call a penis.
Well, what gets me?
I think he knew what it was.
All right. So here's the thing. This is what gets me. Like, so if you're a dude and you're one of these people that's like sending dick pics to random women, you've got to ask yourself when this happens, like, does the woman really care what my dick looks like? Because obviously they don't understand how women work. And
typically it's the last thing they see.
Yeah, and it's the last thing they care about at that point. It's like, why don't you, like, send her some flowers? No, I'm going to send her a dick pic instead. Like, what is going through their mind?
Yeah.
But I do think it's hilarious. You really should do that. You should like, you can't do it on Facebook because you'd be banned for life.
Yeah, I'd be banned.
But it would be hilarious to say, I've got a calendar of things you have never thought you'd see in your life. And if you guys want to see it, $45.95 PayPal only.
And you need to put the names of each of the people that sent it to you and their contact information.
Their Facebook profiles and all.
It's totally worth it.
This guy right here, and this is what it is.
So you have a guy that puts
She's
up a
holding up
picture
her pinky.
Holding it, and he's like, "That was me. I was March."
I'm telling you. Unfortunately, you see them. I don't sit there and stare at them and everything like that.
Yeah, you can't see what you see.
Unfortunately, you see them for that moment, and not a lot of them are that impressive anyway. So it's like, okay, you're not even impressive.
That guitar back there is a little bit more impressive.
I know.
Yeah, the floral guitar is a lot more, and the gem. So let's not talk about wieners now.
Yeah,
wiener. Okay, because I have to do that song every time.
You asked. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm pretty sure I asked, but
yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. No pun intended.
That was very punny.
It's got to be terrible, though. I mean, when you have creepy guys, here's the thing I think we were trying to get to is how do you handle it when somebody, in general, we can stay away from the specifics now, in general about being creepy. Has that ever gone to you and you said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want these creepers or anything. How has it affected you and your psyche as far as this whole thing goes?
I've never had a creeper discourage. I've had people say really mean things. That discouraged me for a little while, just because I already had some confidence issues. I'm over it.
I'm glad to hear it.
You learn to get over it pretty quick, because no matter what you do, there's always going to be that asshole, right? So, how do I handle the creepers? I literally call their bluff. One guy was like, "Oh, you shouldn't post a picture of where you're going to be going out and stuff like that, because now I know you're gone and you have all these beautiful guitars." And I'm thinking, okay, cool. So my door's usually locked and you'll be on camera. Be sure to wave at the camera when you stop by.
Yeah.
And all the cool guitars are over here. Make sure you go to that. I just literally was like, all right, dude, bring it on. Let's go. And then all of a sudden it was like, never mind. My bad. I was just messing.
I just laugh because I've had people say that to me before, and I'm just like, well, that's why I have musician's insurance. You want to buy me a new rig? Go right ahead.
Yeah, I've had actually that said to me by several people, and it's like, you know what, bring it on. Don't threaten me. I just handle them that way. Or I've had a guy ask me for my address. I'm like, send me yours.
Yeah,
I want to watch you sleep.
Yep, there you go.
Just creep you back, and then all of a sudden it's like not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. And he finds out, oh, wait a minute.
Here's the number for the local police department. They've been informed. You might want to go turn yourself in.
Yeah, I just do it back. It's usually a really good way to isolate, because what they're doing is they're trying to get a rise out of you.
Right.
So when you don't give them that, the chase is over.
Right. It's bullying. It's just another way to bully.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, David, Another question?
I was gonna ask. So, what's your day job? Like, what do you do? What do you do for real?
Oh, I'm a clinical data manager. I build and conduct clinical trials for rare diseases like leukemia.
That's very cool. I bring this up, and this is my personal note for this episode. I actually lost my sister-in-law 2 days ago to cancer. She was diagnosed, and 24 days later, she died. After her first chemotherapy treatment, and very very sad. But I'm glad to hear that you organize things around things like leukemia and cancer and stuff.
Yes,
very close to my heart right now.
It's hard, and there's not any words to express the sorrow that comes with it. You know, everybody says my condolences and I'm sorry, but it's an understatement. And unfortunately, there's only one thing that's going to make it feel better, and that's time. And
Right.
I hope that, you know, the time isn't as lengthy as for others, you know, that you're able to move forward at a quick rate and maybe do something in the future that helps with this kind of thing, because it's a tough disease. It really is.
Right. It's very cool to hear that you're involved in something that technical, because that's the other thing. You're not just involved in guitar. So, like, as far as the feminist critique goes, there's not enough women in science jobs. There's not enough women in mathematical jobs. Like, that's the big thing right now. Is they're pushing, even my daughters, they're pushing them for science careers and math careers and things like that. So it's very cool to see that you are a trailblazer in every sense of the word. Because whether you know it or not, I mean, you're here in front of us right now, and like Jim said, we've been wanting to do this segment consistently, but it's been very difficult to find women who are willing to talk.
Right.
So we really appreciate that.
Unfortunately, it's the men's, in general, it's the male population's fault that it's difficult to find a woman who's willing to, hey, join us on a video call. And whatever. Because the first thing she's thinking is she's going to get one of those pictures you were talking about earlier.
No.
And
Show us your boobs.
Yeah, no.
Do it.
So it's that whole mentality. Unfortunately, we are trying to live past, because we're not going to, we don't want to deal with that, but we understand too. We don't say, hey, you're just, we just understand. It's completely understandable.
Well,
Yeah.
From my perspective, I follow all these different guitar podcasts, and I am deeply ingrained in gear culture and all these different things, and so much of it is male-centric, male, women do not cross the radar. And so for us, like, we're reaching out to these different audiences. We want people who are a little bit older, who've been playing longer, more professionally. We want to encompass this whole thing. And so we think that there's big audiences there. And so that's why we're, doing this major outreach. Not just because it's right. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But there is, fruits of our labor to be had, hopefully.
I think you guys are doing an awesome thing. That's cool. And maybe, me doing this will encourage more females to do it.
I hope so. I think we've had what, 2 or 3 other segments, Jim?
Three.
And then
we had Jodie. She was the country singer from the 80s. We had the gal that writes her own stuff.
That's her name.
Mandy.
Yeah. I forget.
I'm trying to remember how to pronounce her last name. As you can tell, I can't pronounce her last name. So,
what was I? Trividello?
Yeah. Bordenello.
He couldn't tell you anyway.
Sounded like a candy bar.
I hate it when people mispronounce my last name, but they do it all the time. But anyway, yeah, we've had women, and it's again, it's difficult, and sometimes it's just like we were going to do it a couple weeks ago, right? But it's difficult to make. I
was in Germany. I had to do my clinical research. I was actually presenting at a huge conference. I'm sorry, I would have done it sooner, but
no. I mean, obviously, your day job is much more demanding. And that speaks even more to your ability to play at the level you do, given that the day job isn't like yeah, I cut hair. I serve ice cream at whatever. You actually have, like most of us, you have a real, hard, difficult day job that takes time, that takes your efforts to go out of town. Do you have a travel rig? Do you bring something to travel?
You want to see it?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
I love this. Hang on, I like it going off because it's so cool.
By the way, Jodie is taking care of that. I just want to say our two original guests were Judy Rodman and also I just saw her. Mandy Rowden.
Mandy Rowden. Oh, for some reason I had Bowden stuck in my head. That's why. I told you I had the long last name. Wrong last.
Oh, you got a Traveler guitar.
Oh,
Those are cool.
It's an LTD.
Oh, really?
I didn't even know they made those.
I didn't either.
Is that an EMG pickup?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and what's cool is it has a little preamp for headphones.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so I'm usually in the airport and I got my headphones on and I'm jamming,
That has to get you a lot of looks too. I mean, it's like, why is that person over there? Are they playing guitar for real?
I've had a lot of people actually walk up to me and offer me gigs.
Wow.
They're just like, hey, you want to do like a segment on a sizzle reel for me? I'm like, yeah, that's sure. And they're like, yeah, we heard you playing. It was great. Let's do that. Like, give me a business card.
A sizzle reel?
A sizzle reel.
I believe it.
Right? But yeah, what it is it's little clips for movies and it's Hollywood production stuff, but
well,
who knew?
Yeah.
We're getting close to our hour.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
No.
That's my warning
we just
shot.
Don't want to take up too much of your time.
That's my warning shot. So what I wanted to say was, if you have any new projects in the future, obviously reach out to us. If you start like playing in bands, like you said, like you want to come in and plug your music or plug shows or whatever, feel free to reach out to us. You got to plug them in the group and we'll have you back on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say one thing. That Bones guitar, I have to mention this just because the fellow who made it is such a gracious person. He contributed that for my calendar, and I have to mention that. And
that's very cool.
And he just said, "Hey, I'll contribute to your calendar. Here you go." So, and that's Piper Customs, and he does it completely by hand.
Yep.
Completely. So I just wanted to mention that and thank him publicly because that was one of the most gracious and amazing things that anyone's ever done for me.
Well, if it's okay, I'll borrow the picture from Rockin' Guitars and I'll stick it in the Practical Guitars Facebook as well that you had with that, because that's a cool pic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So tell us more about the calendar. So the calendar is coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'll go ahead and announce it publicly with Practical Guitarist first. So I'm gonna have a pre-sale on the calendar. We're still putting it together. It's not complete yet. We have a few more photos to do. Poor Joe. He's great. He's a lot of the brains to this. It's not just me here. He's working hard on editing the photos and getting them all ready. And I'm about to run a pre-sale where I'm going to include a little bit of Rockin' Guitars gear with the purchase for the people who decide to purchase early. And I'm also going to enter anyone's name in the U.S. and Canada who decides to order a pre-sale. They'll be entered into a raffle to win one of my guitars.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll let one of my guitars go.
Never.
I'm looking up at the wall and I'm going.
It's not the Bones guitar.
We are panicking over the fact that we can't buy gear for a year and you're giving it away.
I'm giving a guitar away.
Oh man, so we'll be watching for link to that. Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely post it in our group.
Sure, I will. Thank you for letting me do that.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, all right. With that, I have been David.
I've been Jim.
And I've been Jodie.
And tonight, we have been the Practical Guitarists.
Thank you.